Alright, look, I am the biggest Pokemon Sword and Shield hater. Just check some of my tweets or some of my older videos. As much as I liked the new Pokemon and the ton of quality of life improvements introduced with the game, it still felt like Sword and Shield were just not up to par when compared to, almost every other AAA title on the Switch. From bad graphics to bad render distances, fading into black to avoid animating things, no voice acting in a 3D adventure game, bad animations, to the removal of the national dex. To make matters worse, the DLC didn't really improve the game to a significant degree.
Look at how bad this is. Look, if you're playing, you barely get to see your actual Pokemon following you because all you see is them just trying to catch up. You actually never get to see your actual Pokemon following you because of how badly it is done. But the craziest thing, the actual craziest thing is that 2 years ago, Game Freak did it perfectly. In Pokemon Let's Go, they know how to do this. They know how to do it right so your Pokemon can't keep up with you all the time. They know how to do this.
And while this game set a horrible precedent for Game Freak and the quality of their games, after watching the Pokemon present a few days ago, I am now feeling optimistic about the future of Game Freak. Why? Well, allow me to explain. Why I, a Sword and Shield hater, is feeling optimistic about the future of Game Freak. Alright, so to get started, we need to take a quick trip back in time, to the distant past of late 2016. During this period, Nintendo was in a tricky situation. More realistically, in a life or death situation, as Reggie went on to describe it later on. The Nintendo Wii U was a big failure, and while the 3DS had a massive audience, its sales were starting to wind down. The Nintendo Switch was a big, risky play from Nintendo to merge its home and portable consoles into one single platform. During the same time, Tsunesaku Ishihara, president of the Pokemon Company, was running high on Pokemon Go money and told Nintendo he thought the Nintendo Switch would fail due to the rise of mobile gaming. So in 2016, we have a Pokemon company that is doubtful of the Switch's success and is wrapping up development of Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now, here's where my speculation comes in. I'm going to do my best to explain it, so bear with me. In late 2016, during the release of Pokemon Sun and Moon, Nintendo probably asked Game Freak to make a game for the Nintendo Switch. Now, we know that Game Freak would often work on two Pokemon games at the same time. This means that Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon was way into development at this time when Nintendo made such a request. In fact, at this point, work on the Generation 8 games might have already begun, so the Pokemon Company found itself in a bit of a crossroad. Work on the Generation 8 games is in its early stages, and Nintendo wants a Pokemon game on Switch. At the same time, Ishihara is doubting the potential of the Switch and is running a franchise that keeps comfortably profiting in the install base of the Nintendo 3DS. Would he, in that position, risk putting the Generation 8 games in a console that he thinks will fail, or offer Nintendo a simplified remake of the Gen 1 games instead? I guess we know the answer. Game Freak then starts developing Pokemon Let's Go for the Nintendo Switch. Games that were from the ground up made with the concept of the Nintendo Switch in mind. From using motion controls to catch Pokemon, to providing local multiplayer across a full campaign, a series first. This game did a lot of things that were not possible on the 3DS due to the uniqueness of the Switch console. Remember this part, this is very important. So what happened to the pre-production of the Generation 8 games? Well, I'm going to go on a wild guess. It stayed as a 3DS game. Yep, Pokemon Sword and Shield were probably 3DS games to start with, due to the Pokemon Company's doubts over the success of the Nintendo Switch. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time Game Freak developed and released games that were not on the latest Nintendo console. They did it with Black and White 2 and with Ultra Sun and Moon. It is now 2017. The success of the Switch is undeniable, and it's time for Ishihara to eat his own words. However, he remains cautious, telling Bloomberg, currently the Switch is popular among the early adopters, but there needs to be one more step to attract a wider audience. I see much potential in Switch, but one shouldn't overestimate its potential. Perfect statement for a man who is currently working on a Pokemon Go inspired game for the Nintendo Switch. It is now 2018, the Nintendo Switch is officially one of the best-selling Nintendo consoles of all time, and Pokemon Let's Go is set up to sell a bajillion units. Which it does. So according to my not so hard to believe theory, at some point between the launch of the Switch and 2018, Game Freak decided to move the development of Pokémon Sword and Shield from the 3DS to the Nintendo Switch, which would sort of explain the low quality graphics, 3DS animations, and lack of time to properly implement the national decks into this game. I mean, think about it, Pokémon Let's Go had all these features that were built around the Nintendo Switch, such as motion controls and local co-op. The same can't be said for Pokémon Sword and Shield. Most of the game features could work on the Nintendo 3DS just with lower resolution graphics. I mean, even the wild area could work on the new Nintendo 3DS. Remember, this console could run freaking Xenoblade Chronicles. Once the game was finished and development of the expansion pass begun, it leaned more heavily on the areas that were only possible due to the console's extra power, such as a more open world that probably was an afterthought. So that's my theory. Pokémon Sword and Shield started as a 3DS game that got moved to the Nintendo Switch, which, when you think about it, makes a lot of sense given the final product that we got and its features. Where is the local multiplayer only made possible by being able to hook up to a TV? Why were motion controls only implemented into Pokémon Camp, a relatively small part of the game and nowhere else in the game? That doesn't really screams concept built around the Nintendo Switch to me. So Pokémon Sword and Shield is announced and released, and it goes on to sell a bajillion copies. However, from a PR standpoint, the game tore the community apart and probably drove the social media departments in both the US and Japan up the walls, with constant cries about the quality of the games. At the same time, teams at Nintendo get to bask in the positive receptions of games like Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, and Splatoon 2. Other internal studios like Monolith Software get to work on a successful Xenoblade game, Intelligent Systems gets to work on another Fire Emblem game, and so on. We can only assume Game Freak was motivated by this, and that's why we saw what we saw in the latest Pokémon Present. A truly ambitious and refreshing take on the Pokémon franchise from Game Freak. A AAA game developed from the ground up on the Nintendo Switch. Not only that, but I like to think that Game Freak has finally realized that developing a critically acclaimed game on the Switch is not that easy, and pumping out one of those every year from the same studio is quite unrealistic. So they've decided to let another studio work on the Gen 4 remakes with their guidance. While that happens, Game Freak gets to work on what could be the most ambitious project they have ever taken on, all while offloading their workload of one game a year to another studio. A more focused Game Freak that gets to build their own true console game from the ground up. Does this mean that Pokémon Legends Arceus is going to be good? No, nothing is guaranteed. I mean, the game looked very unfinished, and very choppy as well during its reveal. But does the game look promising and exciting? Absolutely. And that is something that I could have not said about Pokémon Sword and Shield. Pokémon Sword and Shield looked unfinished, choppy, unpromising, and non-exciting. So for once, I am excited about what Game Freak is working on. And that's something that I have not been able to say about a new Pokémon game in a long time. Thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, make sure to subscribe and check out some of my other videos, like this one from my second channel where I asked my viewers to draw Pokemon from memory. It was a lot of fun. Once again, thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments if you think my theory is crazy or if it makes sense, and if you're excited for Pokémon Legends Arceus. Once again, I don't think it's guaranteed to be good, but it is very exciting and very promising. Alright, see you in the next video. Bye bye.